There's nothing that's going to get us in trouble in the background, is there?
No, you're fine. All right, so this seems to be working. So we're live. So we are joined by Kevin Flynn. Kevin Flynn so you're president of the Saracens?
Yeah, I'm president of Seattle Saracens Rugby Club, and I am team manager for the Seattle Seawovles Pro team.
Okay.
The MLR Major League Rugby champions.
Perfect. So it's a pleasure to have you on, and thanks for your generosity of everything you've done for us the last couple days. We got to enjoy the exciting match for the Glendale Raptors versus the Seattle Seawolves. And, I don't really have too much to compare it to because this is the first rugby match that I've gone to. Eric went to a few before, and he's the one that's kind of been getting me onto rugby. But, that was a very exciting game. It was really close. So
yeah, it was a lot of fun, and, we played them in the final last year. We played them 3 times in total, and we won the final. It was a close game in the final too, and I expect, we're going to have another hard game against them later in the year as well. But they're a great bunch of guys. They've got great team culture, great club culture, and it was nice to come out with a win, especially at home. And hopefully the fans really enjoyed it. It was a big night for everyone. I think it looked like they did even on a cold evening. But I'm glad we could help and get you creating another fan in you. That's great.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy when the Glendale Raptors were going for that PK. And it was just like completely silent. Like you could hear a pin drop in that stadium, man. It was crazy.
Well, there's a lot of controversy over that. There are people talking about, should you boo the kicker, should you not boo the kicker? All I can say is like where I'm from, like this weekend, there's big games going on this weekend back home. Ireland are playing England, and if either team are kicking for the goal and there'd be 80,000 plus people in the stadium, you could hear a pin drop. So that's just kind of our culture. It isn't the same everywhere. I think France is a little bit different, and obviously we're bringing there's American aspects and American supporters here that are we want to engage in the sport, and they'll bring their culture into it somewhat, but I enjoy that aspect of the fact that they're bringing that American brand to the sport. At the same time, it's a learning curve for me as well, because we're used to that kind of respect, but the funny thing is, I think it was actually more nerve-wracking for our kicker kicking that goal when it was totally silent than when it was noisy.
Yeah.
So it just depends on where you're from. It's but definitely, like I say, back home it would be you could see a mouse and hear a mouse running across the field. It's that quiet.
Yeah. So I got to know a little bit more of your background just by digging a little bit, but why don't you tell people, for the fans, you're Irish descent and you're from the UK?
Yeah, so I was raised in England, and my father's Irish, my mother's English, and in the 70s and 80s it was pretty tough, so I grew up and I ended up playing for London Irish. And I was there when it went from amateur to pro. So certainly this is not necessarily a totally new experience for me, and it's been good for some of our players, especially the guys that were in the Saracens that were already here. Trying to educate them on what this is going to look like, and it's not, don't quit your job and start playing rugby, because we're not ready for that.
Yeah.
And the challenges that come with it. There are some guys that are working at full time and still have to do that. And I experienced that myself when I was at Irish and went pro, and there was guys asking each other about what they were earning, and I saw friendships fail and over money, unfortunately, and it took a long time to get over that and adjust to that culture, because it wasn't normal for us, But I grew up there, and I went off and played in Australia, and played out there for a season. Had a great time in Australia. Came back to London Irish, and then really at that point I decided I wanted to travel. I was doing quite well in my rugby career at Irish, but I got the travel bug, to be honest, and I decided to pick Seattle because Seattle played in the Canadian Premiership with Seattle Rugby Club, which is now Seattle Saracens, and we also had a team here in town called Old Puget Sound Beach, who played in the US Super League. and so I had the option, and well, not option. I played in both of those sides, so it was nice to be able to play in the US and in Canada, and that's why I picked Seattle. I kind of knew I wouldn't go back home. I said it was time for me to travel and fight. And rugby is what we'll be talking about in a bit. Gives us the opportunity, and that you don't have to be an elite player to do it. You actually don't have to be very good at all. There's not a rugby team in the world that will turn you down. You're given the opportunity to go and work and play at whatever level you are, and you know, and that's our culture. We look out for each other.
It seems like there's a lot of like camaraderie in the like groups and the clubs that I've watched, and it seems like it's more of a brotherhood than it is a team.
Yeah, it is. As far as rugby players, we like to let's think we are a brotherhood and a sisterhood. A lot of women play rugby, obviously, as well, and we have a women's program in the Saracens. And locally, interestingly enough, and I think it's probably the same in a lot of areas around the US, which it is at home as well. There's a lot of competitiveness, and lots of personalities involved. And rugby people tend to be alphas. On the surface we don't get along, but we'd have each other's back in a heartbeat. But I think over the last 10 years, certainly we've been, the Saracens have been really working hard to build those relationships with the other teams locally, and seeing how not only we can help them, but learn from their experiences, and learn, what their challenges are, and how we can try and help. And certainly I think our biggest message in the last 10 years has been we need to work together. This is a startup company in the Seawolves, but rugby's also a startup sport in the US, even though it's got a few years under its belt. It's still this. If we're going to go into mainstream sport, we have to help each other. We have to understand each other, and I think the one challenge we've had here is it seems the disconnect between youth sports in the US to adult sports. It's very much you're at school and you play for your school, then you go to college if you're lucky enough to go to college, and then you can potentially go professional. Well, we want to look after everyone, and that means connecting with the youth, making sure they have the knowledge that, unlike a lot of other sports, we can continue playing rugby at 18, 19 years old, and it will help you find a job, and it will help you travel the world, it will help you find a place to live. Those are the messages that really realised to us in the last few years, that they're the things we take as our normal, but we're realising that that's not normal to people who don't know rugby. So that's what's bringing us all together. A lot of our players at the Saracens volunteer at all the youth programs in the Northwest, and we're linked with Special Olympics Washington, with wheelchair rugby. We have connections on both naval bases and at JBLM military base, and we want to. It's a learning curve for us, and it's a lot of fun finding out how we can help other people, and which in turn helps us.
Right. And so is that your like focus mostly for the Saracens? Tell me a little bit more about the Saracens as a whole.
We like I said, the Canadian Premiership is a very good league, and in our opinion was consistently probably the best league in North America for a long time. Because leagues would change a lot in the US. It was the Elite Cup, the PRP, ARP, Super League, things like that. Whereas the Canadian League has a long history, and geographically it makes sense for us. But so playing the elite rugby was certainly a goal, but then it became more of a goal to realise, to educate people that you can also have an elite team, but within that same club there are places for everyone to play rugby. So we have a lot of guys who, tonight, training session tonight, there'll be probably 70 guys at training, and there'll be guys who picked up a rugby ball last week, and there'll be other guys that play for the national team. So it's for everyone, and that's kind of become more and more of our goal, is to try and educate people that this sport is for everyone. Certainly, my personal goal is to try and help as many people as we can. I think it's very rewarding, but I think the knock-on effect from that is that our players are better people, and if they're better people, they're playing for something bigger. They buy into the vision, and if they buy into the vision, we become more successful.
Can you hear me?
Got you there.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I noticed a whole bunch of diversity in the stands from on the other side and from where we were sitting as well. There's just it's like a whole melting pot of people, and it's really awesome. I like that. So what got you specifically into rugby? Is it like passed down from your family?
No, funny enough, no. My father was always away working at sea and then was tunnelling a lot in England, and he was an Irishman. That was pretty constant, back then. But so no, I wasn't pushed in sports. I was pretty good at sports. I was a good athlete, but kind of across the board. I used to fight for a club. I did quite well fighting for a while, and I just really came across it. I was horrible at soccer, absolutely horrific at soccer. But they put me out there when I was younger as a bit of a bruiser, so bully people around a little bit. But I was terrible at it, and honestly, I just came across rugby, and it fell into place. And the other things fell away, to be honest, because I couldn't fight anymore because I was playing rugby. I was getting beaten up on the rugby field and then expecting to fight, and I had to stop that. And all the other sports, really, and honestly, it was exactly what I just talked about, which is why I'm passionate about it now. When you fight, you're alone in the ring, you've got the ring, your corner, and then even with soccer, I didn't get the camaraderie that I found elsewhere, and with athletics, it's the same. And the fact that you're on a rugby field, and I was only 5, even when I was growing into being a man at 17, 18 years old, I was 5'8", 160 pounds. And I'm captain of a team with guys who are 6'6", 6'7". And the fact that that's the respect factor along. It doesn't matter about your size. Anyone can play it. It's about having respect, working hard, training hard, and then people will follow you. And ultimately, those people are good people, and I follow them, and we do anything for each other. And that's once you experience that, it's really hard to go into that sport.
Okay.
That's obviously my opinion, and I'm
right.
One-sided, but there you go.
Hey, so with you not like having rugby passed down to you like as a family thing, how did you get into the position you are now as a manager for the MLR team?
Well,
and
like I say, it wasn't passed down. It's a different culture back home than it is here. Although it wasn't passed down, I started playing at 14, which is actually quite old,
Okay.
But then, like I say, our normal progression at home, unlike America, where, if you at home we play for our school and we play for a club at the weekend. So we would play for our school on a Wednesday, we'd play for our rugby club on the weekend. If we were lucky enough and good enough, we would play for a rep side team, an all-star team on a Sunday. And then we knew that the next step at 17, we might be 17 years old playing men's rugby on a Saturday afternoon, 16 or 17. I was playing men's rugby at 16. And then as you progress, whereas here it's very much you have to educate people to what does that look like, and for me, where I am now, I was lucky to play semi-pro and back home and be looked after pretty well at London Irish and rep side teams and all-star teams and travelled around the world doing it, and with that experience coming here, Saracens is what I've been involved with for 20 years in the US playing and coaching here, so it really was a progression, the Seawovles, the next professional level really was, we had achieved everything we need, well, not needed to, we still got a long way to go, but we achieved a lot with the Saracens, and is America ready for rugby? I think it is. It needs the right investment, it needs the right people there, but it needs rugby people there too as well. We need those business people and rugby people in the same room, and it's not a coincidence, we've got the Seawolves, which is an orca, and obviously the Saracens is an orca, and this was created in 1966, so it's something that it was the next step, and it needed a different type of people to run it, as far as investment goes and things like that, and help us through, because that's not my skill set. But then at the same time is, I get invited in to be part of that, and part of that journey, because it's an extension of the Saracens,
right,
and really help those players through. I know I've played rugby. I look on the Seawolves team, and there's 14 or 15 guys that played Saracens, and I've played rugby with most of them. So they're personal friends of mine, and we want to see them go forward. And if we can create that right culture going forward, then the next players that come into the team next year will, be part of that culture, and part of that experience, and hopefully they really enjoyed that ride too, you want people to get off a plane, whether they're coming from San Diego, or they're coming from Florida, or they're coming from New Zealand, and ultimately they're coming home. And that's the way I want to look at it, and we want to make them feel that they're coming home.
That's awesome. Okay. So, you said that you played a lot. How was the transition from being a player and a coach? And from what I read, you had to be a coach and a player at the same time.
Yeah, I've been player coach here for probably 15 years, and only recent history, really. I mean, I played like 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I'm still sore from that. But I kind of hung up my boots for the first time, about 4 years ago, I think, and then I started playing again. I got back, played full season, and then just been on and off. And it's hard, and every rugby player experiences it. It's hard to walk away from, and I think it's probably harder in the US to walk away from than it is at other places, because at home, you do still, when you walk away from playing, you're still part of that culture, and you still have a clubhouse, and you have a place to go and watch the games, and there's still a family, and there's a physical environment for you to be part of that. And here, we don't have the clubhouses yet, and especially Seattle is very expensive, but saying that, like in Canada, like in BC, when you play then, straight after the game, you're in their club, and you shower, you get hosted by the other team, they feed you, you get to go in their bar, and everyone hangs out and talks about
that's
the game,
cool.
Man of the match, and that's part of our culture, and in the US it's pretty hard. So for me though, being a player coach, although that was very hard for a very long time, because people question your selections, especially if you're on the field, and that's hard because people are questioning your integrity, and I'm pretty strong on that. I don't like that at all. So that was the biggest challenge I had. I think people questioning my integrity or the reason why I'm playing. But with that, you're in charge of trying to create a culture and get other people to step up and hopefully set the example for other people. Recently, with the Seawovles starting again, obviously I've got a very big job with them, trying to help those guys through and that program through with other people. It's not just me. So with that, though, it's meant I've had to step away somewhat from the Saracens and being physically there as coaching, which honestly, as president of the rugby club, is probably a good thing long term. We have to be able to survive with more people, but with the culture that we've created in here, with the processes we put in place, and our veterans and rugby and our program, wheelchair rugby and special needs, more people from the outside have wanted to get involved. So that's kind of taken. Although I keep my eye on all that stuff pretty closely because I'm very passionate about it and what we've created here, but people are actually doing the physical work now. So it enables me to be in two places a little bit as well, and also I have a full-time job. So that we're not at the place yet where most of us can be just paid to take care of rugby. But it's been a challenge all these years. I wish I could turn back the clock and play all over again, as every rugby player does. And if we asked why we would do it, it would be just to have the feeling of being on the field with 14 other guys and 8 lads on the bench. Really, there's lots of one incidences that I can think of that were cool that happened or I did, but that would be the thing I would like to get back the most, is go look around and know that you're in a family when the whistle blows.
Okay. That's pretty crazy, man. I like that. Okay. So I noticed a lot of the guys are not from the United States on the Seawolves. I was curious what the rule was for domestic players versus imports. Is there a set number in which you have X amount of exports or domestic players?
In the MLR, you allow 10 foreigners, and there's going to be more teams that come in, in the coming years here, and with that, the American talent pool right now, we need to develop that even more, and I think anyone who's foreign, who's been here a long time, or anyone who's touched on American sport can realise that, the American athlete is second to none. I mean, they're amazing athletes here that we just have to figure out how to tap into that market, educate them on being, rugby players and develop them. But until we get to that point, we are going to need some foreign players in key positions. I mean, imagine, if American football is in the UK, who's going to be the quarterback? Probably be an American.
Yeah.
Because it's, he's the guy who can help lead the plays and stuff like that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I know that, that's our experience here. Is there are some key positions that normally filled in with foreign players who played at that level, who have that experience, and those other players that are around them that are very talented, but lack the experience, really can learn off of them. And certainly this week we have an All Black in town, and they're talking to some of if they want to come towards the end of their career and play here, and really what we're looking at is not for that person himself to what he can bring to the team, what can he bring for the guys around him, and help to them to develop and stuff like that. Because in my personal opinion, if we are looking for more than 30 or 40% of our players overseas in 4 or 5 years' time, then we haven't achieved our goal. We failed. It's and it might be a longer timeline than that. But in Seattle, I think that's realistic. We've got some very talented players up here, but and for other areas it might be longer. But I think that has to be the goal. And like I say, that's just my opinion. We need to look at how we can develop the American athlete. One, as far as those business people that are involved, I'm sure they'd like it. It's probably cheaper than bringing guys in, so that helps them. But at the same time, it's homegrown talent. Do we think Seattle fans would get behind Seattle players? 100%. And in fairness to our foreign players that are here now, they've bought in, they love Seattle. They really love the culture here. So, I could see a lot of those guys actually staying here beyond their rugby career, but ultimately they're the type of players that we want engaging in our community and helping develop young rugby players at Saracens, at local clubs like Valley and Chucking Up that we're partnered with, or youth programs. And I think although there's a lot of foreigners now, our goal should be not to have a lot of foreigners.
Okay.
And that's going to take some work and a bit of vision, but I don't think it's out of the question at all in the not too distant future.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, in that answer you just gave me, you kind of hit on where I was going to go with the next question is with rugby becoming a rapidly fast-growing sport in the United States, how optimistic are you about the MLR taking off in the United States?
I think I'm actually very optimistic about the MLR taking off, but I think we can... My opinion is that, there are things that we can offer people that other sports potentially can't offer, and also provide the American public, an insight into our culture, which is pretty cool to be part of. So, we're reaching out, like you said, it's a very diverse, demographic that we have playing rugby. Everyone plays rugby, So we're going into schools that are predominantly African American or Polynesian, and that I've been helping out for years, and really then we started realising, we want to tell the story more, and something that those athletes can engage in, and certainly, we've got African American players and Polynesian players who've been volunteering their time. We started putting them in that school environment, and our message no longer is about rugby; it's more about opportunity, and because we've got to be careful. If all we do is advertise about the Seawolves or Glendale, then we become like other American sports, and it's only for the professional or the elite athlete, and that's not accurate.
Right.
It's for everybody, and we want everyone to buy into that. I mean, if you're 18 years old and there's a good chance that you might not go to university, come play rugby. And the reality is, if you take on that opportunity, then the numbers speak for themselves. I don't know rugby players unemployed, not for any length of time. I don't know rugby players who are looking for housing. I certainly don't know any sleeping on the streets at the moment. We look out for each other, and I think that's a stronger message. And if we can get that message across to people that this is what rugby looks like, it's not about 80 minutes. And I think we'll get more people buying into our sport I know I didn't ask my kids to play rugby over 6 and 7 year old. They want to play it just because they're around it. I certainly didn't push them that route. But, as an outsider, would I want my kids to be looked after, not just on the field? 100%
Right.
I would, and if I'm 18 years old and I don't know what I'm going to do for work, and I don't know what I'm going to where I'm going to live, and you've just been told you can't play sports anymore because basically you're not going to college. Well, rugby can provide those three things at the very base level, and it doesn't. And the cool thing is, it doesn't matter how good you are. You don't have to be good to do it. As an athlete, it might be something you want to do socially. You're still accepted, and I think for the MLR to grow and rugby to grow, I think they're the strong messages we have to get out. Providing just a good product on the field is certainly, obviously, a part of it. But right now, we're only attracting rugby people, or people who might be connected to rugby people. So how do we reach out to the bigger community that we know will love this when they get here? We have to do things that they're passionate about, and whether that's going into underserved areas and showing them, giving them opportunities to do this stuff, or whether it's going to wheelchair rugby and helping those guys and training against them, which we do sometimes, or whether it's going to youth programs and reaching out to those parents and educating them on, hey, there's this place for them after they're 18, and a lot of those parents don't know that.
Right.
So we're very careful and trying to be very careful. I'm now the community director also for the Seattle Seawolves, and part of that journey, I think, is I'm pretty careful. I want us to be, the message to be, although we've got Seawolves in the room talking to all these kids, there's another place for you too. We don't want to be that sport that only they can play if they're elite. There's so much more opportunity than that. And I think if that's the message we can portray to people and show, and we're not making it up, this is our reality. If we can show that, I think more people will buy into the sport. I think more businesses will sponsor it because it's a good message and it's looking out for people. And I think corporate America will get behind it because there's employees there for them as well, and there's businesses. Most of it in the Saracens, there's, like I say, about 70 players and 40 women, and there's a very large percentage of them that are all employed by alum or people affiliated with the rugby team. Does that help the player? Yes. Does it help that company? 100% it does. So there's a lot, and rugby players are confident. They give back to their community. Is that not, and they work hard. They've got a great outlook on life, very positive generally. So is that the type of employee you want? Yeah, it is. So I think it's a two-way street, and it has to be a two-way street. It can't just be give back from the fans or just on the rugby field. If they can realise that this is a two-way street in a family, I think that really is a very strong message, and I think people want to be part of that. We all want to be part of something bigger than ourselves, and sometimes, and it's not that hard. It's just a case of creating something and showing the message and say, hey, come on in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the idea from like going from like high school football to college football, and then, hey, you don't have anywhere to go from college football because the NFL doesn't want you. So
yeah, no, that's exactly right. We're going into some of these schools, some of them got great football programs, and their kids that have worked hard to be in those programs. They're, in areas that maybe are struggling a little bit, and we go in there and really that's our message. It's like, look, this kid is playing football. Imagine if you could turn around to him as a high school football teacher and know that he's probably not going to university and what's going to be next in his life, and be able to say to him, hey, look, why don't you take up rugby? Maybe they help you find a job. Maybe they help you find a place to live. Which, if that athlete takes that opportunity, once again, the numbers speak for themselves. If they buy in and do the right things, which just means be a good person, really, to be honest, and we all help you be that person as well, because you're surrounded by lots of people like that have been through that journey. As I said, we've got guys who've been in gangs who are no longer in gangs and things like that, who are now some of our most positive people. And I think you've managed to sit in a room, especially some of those really big athletes, you get to tell them that they can carry the ball as well. You just watch their eyes open. Carry the ball. So, and also, and with that, we want to make sure we're touching on something. We're not going down a road here, we're just talking about men, but the women. But women can play this sport, obviously. Right. And we have a good national team, we have a good club program, and every shape and size is catered for. It's I think we get into this stereotype of an athlete needs to look like this. It's not accurate. And certainly not in rugby anyway. And even if you're an athlete that doesn't aspire to be a really big, really super healthy, fit athlete, there's still a place for you.
Right.
And it might be that you play socially on a Saturday afternoon, and you have a beer with your friends or a juice with your friends afterwards in the game or whatever that is. But it's still a family, and there is a place for you. No one is turned away. I mean, we've got players that have come to us that have realised they probably aren't really cut out to play rugby, to be honest. And rather than turn away, I've tried to feed them into other local programs that they might be fitted to. And I can think of 3 that stayed with us and said, no, can we be your photographer? Can we help out as manager? Because they want to be part of it, because it's such a positive environment. So I think that's the message that I think is going to really set us apart from other sports.
Kevin, you're making me want to play rugby.
Hey, you can play rugby. I just told you.
Yeah.
Come on
out. So, are you looking forward to anything specific with the Seawolves or the Saracens in the upcoming season? I mean, I know the season's already started, but
I'm pretty black and white when it comes to that as a player, and when I was, and even now as manager. And that, like Seattle Saracens this weekend, they're going up to Vancouver Island, so they've got a long haul up there on Saturday morning, and and they'll go up there. And here's the deal: I know some of those players will be like, "Oh, I've got to go to Vancouver Island this weekend," and I'm jealous, and that's the excitement we want to try and show that I wish I could go and play. And I think you just take each game as it comes, and that's all I ever did, because it doesn't matter, to me what other jersey that the opposition wear. It wasn't my jersey, and I knew I had to perform one Saturday afternoon, and that was it, but at the same time, here's the one thing, and it's the last thing I say to every Seawolf when they leave the changing room. They're professional. Is have fun today. If it's not fun, I've no interest in being involved.
Right.
Now it's got to be more than just that W. And here's the deal, though: if they have fun, that means they're working hard, they're training hard. That means they're buying into each other, and they'll probably come out with the W. But if they do it the other way around, they probably won't.
Right.
So it's got to be fun. It's got to be hard work. And they've got to be up for it. But coming up, we've got San Diego this weekend as far as the Seawolves go. So we're flying out tomorrow. That's a big weekend for us down there. We played the final there last year. A tight game against them at the end of the season last year. They've got a good program again. So it's just every week we're looking at those scores, and everyone's really tight. It's awesome. Coming up, the big thing that's coming up up here in Seattle, USA are here, Canada are here, and Uruguay are coming. So there's international rugby games being played here in Seattle with our fans, and we want the Seawolves fans to come out and support that, because ultimately, if we ever want to be in CenturyLink, if we want to be in a major venue, we need more people engaged in rugby, and we want to, and that will also mean that our international team is viewed internationally as a successful program.
Right.
And if it's not going to be successful by itself, where do those players come from? They come from the MLR. Right, so if our MLR is not successful and we're not developing the right players, our national team won't be. If our national team isn't, then there's probably a good chance that we're not going to be taken seriously internationally. And yet, if they're good, people are going to start looking in on our model and want to support it. And lots of things come from that, whether that's corporate investment, whether it's support from outside countries who want us to help develop with good players. And so the big thing I'd say to everyone out there now: come to Seattle, March 2nd and 8th, I think it is, off the top of my head. They're playing Canada, playing Uruguay. I mean, how many times you get to see a country play, And I mean, we've got, two naval bases, and an Air Force and an Army base here. And those guys, obviously serve their country. And I think it'd be cool. I want to engage with those guys. Come and serve watch your country in a different way than you have to, and try and enjoy the moment, watch USA play. It's normally an Olympics or a soccer World Cup somewhere, which we're never going to experience.
Right.
It's going to be in Seattle, and that's a really big one coming up, which is really exciting, So, and obviously, towards the end of the season, I want to see the Seattle Saracens hold up the BC Rugby Champion Trophy, which would be if we ever did that, it would be the first time an American team has ever done that. We're the only American team up there. So, and we're founder members of the BCRU, or the Vancouver Rugby Union. So, we're passionate about that. That's also a bigger part of our family. So if we can hold up that trophy, the only American team that's ever done that, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And hopefully we've done that because of all the community stuff we're doing and all the other stuff. And we hope that will set an example for other teams north and south of the border, that you've got to be engaged bigger than yourselves. Otherwise you're just going around in circles. And obviously the next big one is we want to be the MLR champions again. So. The guys are working really, really hard. They're training this morning, and getting stuck into it. Looking forward to San Diego. But as I said, one game at a time. If we can look at it that way, and one game at a time, have fun, and I'm pretty confident we'll come out with the right results.
Awesome. So I noticed that they extended the league schedule. It wasn't as long as it was it is longer this year. And they've added teams, correct? Okay, so how do you prepare for the season how do you prepare for a season when you've added a longer schedule and new teams?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I think every team has to be that does things differently, and ultimately, there's teams in the US that don't have the schedule that the Saracens have. So that we're lucky up here that our guys have been playing since end of August. So, they've got a lot of rugby under their belt, and we can make sure that are conditioned enough to play the game at that level. And basically, the other teams around the country are struggling a little bit, just maybe to get that amount of rugby to make sure their guys are conditioned, But that's certainly our goal, and every team is going to experience it differently. Like I say, we're lucky up here in the Pacific Northwest that a lot of those Seawolves players that played have a lot of games under their belt from the fall season. But ultimately, too, if guys want to play for their national country, for the USA team, and we're going to go out and play against England, those players that play for the UK teams are playing English Premiership rugby. They've got 30 games under their belt.
Right.
So how are we ever going to compete with those guys if we're playing half the rugby at not a high enough level? So we've got to slowly increase it. We can't expect to do that overnight. If those national players expect that they're going to be international teams where players are, on a weekly basis playing top level rugby, I think it's pretty unrealistic. But it's not to USA Rugby to fix that. I think that's up to the clubs to figure out how we can get those players time they need and the coaching they need, and even if they have the good coaches, they need that game time to get that experience. Why are these foreign players our fly halves, our scrum halves, our number 8s, our hookers? Because they've played that much rugby, not necessarily just because they've been coached better. They've got the experience of actually playing, and 3, 4, 5 years from now, who knows where this is going to go, but ultimately I would like to see the leagues develop around the MLR as well, to feed into this program, because that it's not. I don't see it being long term unless we help the people around us, because they need to have, their bodies need to be conditioned. We're watching players that don't play much rugby all year and then get, come on a field in an MLR game and they can get hurt near enough immediately. Although they're fit, they're strong, their bodies aren't used to that kind of contact, and that's something that we need to be aware of, and certainly, although it's going to be a challenge this year, for all the teams, I think, is being forward thinking and making sure how can we provide enough rugby to make our athletes ready for this. And I don't think, in our opinion, it's just I don't think it's let's make them train harder, let's make them just run more, or what's their rugby experience in a competitive environment against other teams, and I think that's where where teams will have the edge moving forward. But hopefully we can help each other out in the league and figure out how we're going to do that.
Right. Okay. I like that. I got a couple more questions. You got time for it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Richie Walker has a pretty nice resume with the 2016 women's sevens in the Olympics and an assistant head coach for the men's team. Phil Mack still being on the team and being part of the coaching staff last year, and you being involved, do you feel that you have higher expectations for the Seawolves this season than you did last year?
You know what? Honestly, I think as an organisation I have higher expectations. As far as higher expectations on the field, I'll let the coaches deal with that. I try not to influence that too much. I control what I can control and try to make a positive environment for those players so that they can succeed. And want to train harder and feel like they're supported in the way they need to. I certainly think as an organisation, whether that's administratively or on management level, I think we can always do better, and we're learning every day about what this looks like. Like I say, most guys, talking to people in San Diego, Glenn, there's a lot of people who have still got full-time jobs, and we're figuring it out as we go along. And as long as we're willing to support each other, it's going to be fine. And I think, obviously, like I say, I want us to win the league, but before I want us to win the league, I want to beat San Diego, and next week I want to beat New Orleans, and that's the way I personally think about it. But certainly having a coach here in town with us, and Anton was an amazing resource for us from overseas. He put in so much work for us, and hopefully one day we'll see him in the US coaching, and I think he'd be great here. But Richie's in town taking on that role. I think Richie is an awesome resource for us, and I think he's got a very good background in his coaching, but also the way he delivers his message I'm very impressed with, and the culture and the bigger picture. He's already engaged in local community coaching stuff, with whether that's youth or whether with the Saracens, and willing to be involved in whatever it takes, because I think he has also his belief that, for this to have longevity, it's got to be more than just us winning the MLR this year.
Right.
Although we do want to do that. But I think, we have, I've got expectations that we are getting better. We want to hope a little bit better every year, but but we also want to be realistic. Let's make sure the naysayers they can't step in and go, "I told you so," right? So pick something that's going to work on that. Next year we'll pick a little other thing, and so or every year, no matter what, it might be slower than normal, but every year we are getting better.
That's good. I like that. Okay, so the Seawolves lost both regular season matches against the Raptors before meeting them in the championship, where the Seawolves won the Shield. How important was Sunday's win over Glendale, and do you guys see them as some sort of a rival with the short history that you guys have?
You know what? I think some of the players may do, because it was tough losing against them last year, and then it was great beating them in the final, and it was a great game. It could have gone either way, and I'm, at that time, Kieran Browner, who's the manager for the Glendale, was a good friend of mine. I went to university with him, and Mark Bullock, who's director of rugby there, is also a Seattle alum. He's from Seattle, so it was great to play them, and certainly there's a friendship rivalry there. But I think more the players might have that more than the admin do.
Right.
And our owners probably do a little bit too, which is good. I think that competitiveness is great, but I certainly don't see it as a grudge match. I mean, let's put it this way. I wish I took the photos of this as well last year. I mean, when we played them last year away at Glendale, the night before we were struggling to get our food to the hotel. We didn't know how I was going to feed the players, so I called up Glendale. Their players put their gear on and brought the food down for us, So they bought, all their team came in the locker into the hotel with all of our food to make sure the guys ate the night before the game. Is that when that whistle blows, do they want to, go at it? Yeah, they want to go at it, and that's great. We want that. Fans want that. Players want that. And then when that last whistle blows, we shake each other's hand. It's all done, and we get ready for San Diego. And that's the way it works. And each game, I'm sure there's a couple of players out there that have given each other a dig in the last game they're in, and they're probably going to get one back. But that's part of the game. That's
right.
Fun. And there are no grudges held. There's no room for that in rugby. We move on right after the game. And if you're that type of player that holds that grudge, it's probably not long before you're not part of that program.
Gotcha. Okay. So, when Glendale was walking off the field on Sunday, like everybody around, even the crowd was like, "Hey, good job, guys! Good job, guys!" So I like the it's a different community than than other sports. So that's what really intrigued me. That was really cool to see. Obviously, the teams that you're involved in right now have a personal spot for you, but is there any other team internationally or in the MLR that you like to keep your eye on specifically?
When we grew up, Worthing, I grew up in a place called Worthing, so it's a home club for me, when I was a kid. So I started playing rugby, there, so it's always going to hold a little bit of a special spot in my heart. I left there quite early. I left there, 15 years old, 16 to play for London Irish, and London Irish will always be my heart, because certainly back then, you had to be Irish or Irish descent to play for London Irish, and I was there, and that changed over time while I was there actually, but to us it was who we were. Unlike playing for major teams like Harlequins or Wasps, or it was an identity for us. We were born and raised in England, but we were, by Irish parents in a pretty difficult time, so we very much identified with being Irish. So that's definitely the most fun I ever had, and being connected to that. This journey is different because I'm sure, I feel like me and other people I work with and Saracens are creating a journey, whereas there we were part of something that was really special in England, you have London Irish, London Welsh, London Scottish, and all of us, it was like an international game if you played one of those teams with Ireland v Wales, so London Irish would be my big one, and I'm still very, very close friends with a lot of those guys that I played with in that 7 years that I was there in that era. We could pick up the phone now, each one of us would be where we live in 24 hours if there's a problem. That's a given.
That's that camaraderie, man. I really like that. That's awesome. All right, so how do you feel about the USA men's sevens team being tied with Fiji for number 1 in the world standings after 3 silver medal finishes in Dubai, Cape Town, and New Zealand?
I think it's awesome. It's great for the sport. You look at where it's come from to where it is now. we've got a lot of players that have come through the Saracens or the Seawovles program that have been part of that sevens circuit, and I think it's just great PR for rugby, great PR for the team, and Mike Friday, he's done a great job with those guys. I actually been back home as well a little bit, so it's great to see what they've done and how they've developed over these last few years, and I think it's, like I say, it's just great for people to see that. It's a different style of rugby. It's some people find that more exciting to watch and stuff. But it's a different type of game, but it all belongs together. And I think we all need to be under one umbrella. And obviously it suits a certain body type. And some of our 15s guys aren't going to be playing sevens anytime soon.
Right.
And so we want to make sure that but like I say, it's for everyone. And what they've done is show another type of athlete that can play that. And certainly the American athlete even can transition into sevens probably a little bit quicker than 15s, but they've done very, very well, and it's very exciting. I never in my wildest dreams when I was younger would I even dream that USA would be linked to Fiji.
Yeah.
So, Fiji were always the team sevens. I loved sevens when I was a kid, and I used to love watching it. We have Serevi, who was in town here, Wasai Serevi, and now he's coaching Russia, and Luke Aranabula, who's here, and they were my heroes when I was a kid. I'd come to Seattle and play against them and play with them. Here in Seattle was pretty special, but I certainly when they were playing, it would have been because the USA weren't even on the radar.
Yeah.
So pretty short time. You look over the history of stuff. USA have done amazing things.
That's cool. So we're talking about men's sevens USA team. My question for you is, do you see the MLR expanding to have sevens as a team?
I don't in the near future. No, not at all. I mean, like I say, there's different elements here. Look over. Like I say, let's look at the models we do know. Do London Irish have a serious sevens team, or Wasps, or Harlequins, or not really. They don't. And the problem being multiple things, and I'll certainly be educating myself more on this as we move forward, because there are players that want to come out of the sevens program to play this, but they're also being paid, to play 15-a-side rugby, and are those investors or are those owners or the league itself willing to let them go and play, and like I said, not international level, we're talking about this being club, are they willing to risk those guys being injured? I don't know. I'd be surprised if they would. We want them to be, focused on what they get paid for. And right now, that's 15s. So do I think there's a place for it in the future? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think there is. But we've got to grow our player pools first, I think. And right now, the focus is on the 15s. And like I say, I'm probably a bit guided by that, by what I know of other, first-tier nations that have sevens. It's not something those Premiership clubs really seriously. There's a place for it, but it's not as serious yet.
I got you. Okay. So that's all the questions I have for you right now. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
You know what? I think just if someone's taken the time to watch this whole video, thank you. And get into your local community rugby program. And you'll be surprised whether it's your son or your daughter that wants to play, or whether it's go down and watch a game, or even if it's a local, a club game that might not be the Seawolves, you'll be amazed at how you're welcomed in, how you'll be part of that family, nigh on immediately, and the journey that you're on, and it's a journey that can last for the rest of your life, and that's what I tell, that's our message. My message to end with is get involved, and you are going to have a riot, trust me.
Okay. All right. So, Kevin, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everything that you've done for us. And I really hope to stay in touch with you and hopefully maybe have you on again sometime. That would be fantastic.
Cool.
All right, man. Take care.
Cheers, mate. See ya.
All right. So that was Kevin Flynn. That was our interview. Fantastic. That guy was just so generous and just amazing. And we had to reach out to get him onto the show. I still, like, I'm becoming a rugby fan quicker and quicker with this, man. It's so awesome that he, took the time to even, like, catch back out at us. We're talking Interference Sports. My other half is not here right now, but come check us out. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. I have videos on YouTube. We talk about sports just in general. And we go live on the Game Changer Sports Network. So check out the Game Changer Sports Network as well. And if you want to get tickets to any kind of sporting event or concert, use the plug or the promo code. The promo code is GCSN at SeatGeek.com. You use that promo code and you can get $20 off. So thanks again. Go check out some Seattle Saracens. Go check out Seattle Seawolves. Check out the MLR. The rugby scene out here is crazy, and I didn't know about it until just recently. And it's fantastic. I love it, and I'm becoming a huge fan. I like it. So, get on board with it, guys. This is the end of the show, the interview. So have a good one, guys.